Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Thursday, April 15th edition of our video devotionals. And, usually when you hear April 15th, you say that's tax day. And a lot of people would rush and get their taxes put into the mail before midnight. Of course, a lot of people do them online now and all that. The point is, April 15th, historically in America, is tax day, but I think they've extended that. I believe an entire, 30-day extension on that sometime in May. But we're not going to worry about our taxes right now. You see a familiar spot behind me. I'm sitting at the Scuppernong Vine. A little over a year ago, we started our devotions April 1st. And of course, we did some devotions with this vine as the backdrop, as the setting. And we did some things, of course, like John 15 about the vine. We're not going to do that today. But a familiar place. So we appreciate a familiar place. We appreciate familiar friends. And if you're new and we've never met, we appreciate you too. At any rate, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Now, we started on Monday. Our theme has been encouragement. The word itself, encourage, is not found that often in the Bible. I don't think, I'll verify this tomorrow, but I don't believe the word encourage is actually found in the New Testament. There's certainly words that are similar to it, and certainly the concept is. So today we're going to be in Hebrews chapter 10. We're going to look at verses 23, 24, and 25. The key verse is verse number 25, and initially I was just going to read that, but I think it's important. In the Bible there's punctuation, and verses 23, 24, and 25 give a complete sentence. Verse 22, there's a period, and then you begin with verse 23. We're going to read these, and then you're going to see verse 23 ends with a semicolon, and then there's some parentheses. Verse 24, there's a colon, and then verse number 25 is a period. So we're going to look at those words there like it's a complete sentence. So let's go ahead and begin here. It says in verse 23, "Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching." Obviously, our key word here is exhorting. And then when you look at the phrase not forsaking, when you look at the word not forsaking, the opposite of that, of course, would be really to encourage. In other words, to be there, and certainly being there for people. So look at the complete thought here, of course. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love. When we think about the word provoke, we think about getting on somebody's nerves and making them say things they shouldn't say or do things they shouldn't do, just being aggravating. The world, we use the word someone who's being a jerk about something, and that's provoking. And I was a kid. Kids often did this. If you didn't, then I'm glad if you didn't. But when me and my brother and my sister got together, there was some provoking going on. There's no doubt about it. And oftentimes, two of us would team up against another and provoking and to be honest with you, I could see that would be very annoying. Where one says, "Make him stop, quit," just annoying, just provoking. Sadly, when you become adults, you got people that provoke. To be honest with you, we've got in America media outlets that, to be honest with you, they're just provokers. They just keep things stirred up. They like the strife. They like the negatives. They provoke, and they provoke in the very negative sense. Well, God says, "I want my people to provoke one another unto love and to good works." That's like looking at somebody saying, "Man, you can do it," or "I appreciate what you're doing," and that's provoking. It's like a coach telling his players, "You can do it. I believe in you," and getting them to do more than they've ever done. And certainly parents do that to their children. Pastors, I mean, that's part of the job of a pastor, is to stand up and provoke people to love and to good works. And then, of course, you look at verse number 25, "Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together." Now that means that's going to church. And the last 1 year period plus, we've had many people bring this point up that God's people need to be in church, and I agree with that. I can remember last year at this time we were, I think if I'm not mistaken, there at Davis, we were doing the parking lot services. I set up on the church porch and had not the pulpit itself, but a stand from a Bible, a songbook, had speakers set up, and I would lead the singing. There was no one else there leading the singing, and then I'd preach, and people would blow the horns. It was nice. It was unique. It was novel at the time. And then it wasn't long, we were back inside the church, and I'm glad we did that. So all that to say, the Bible says that when God's people are not together, or at least when some are gathered and the others don't gather, the Bible says don't forsake people. Don't forsake the believers by being away from your church. Now, we're not talking about people that can't be there. You know, preachers always have to almost have to say this because somebody's going to say, well, I can't get there. Okay, if you can't get there, you can't get there. But for the people that can get there, they need to be there. And to be honest with you, I struggle a little bit with people that are Christian, say they're Christian, and don't want to be around God's people. I think that's a problem. But the Bible obviously is speaking about people that for some reason, whatever the reason might be, would decide to not assemble, okay? And the Bible says not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. Now, what happens, look, let's be real honest and real transparent and real about this situation. You know, let's face it, when you go to church and there's a good crowd there, as we call it, meaning that the normal or above the normal, you say, man, there's a good crowd at church, that's encouraging. And you're able to encourage other people. You meet with people, you talk about things, and that's encouraging. It encourages people. When the preacher stands up and he looks at the congregation and says, man, we've got a good crowd tonight. Everybody's encouraged by that. The preacher's encouraged. And it's about, look, as a preacher, I've got something to give. I've got something prepared. I know it's going to help the people that's going to hear it, especially with something about encouraging. Imagine me having an encouraging message, then the person's not there. You might say, well, we have live stream. Okay. You may hear the message, but let me just say that there is nothing, absolutely no substitute for being at church with the people of God. There is no substitute. Just the fact that we're together, that's part of it. And the Bible literally says here, but exhorting one another. And when we are assembled together like that, then we exhort one another. Even if you didn't say a word and people just look around, they're encouraged that the people of God are at church. And we're all together, and I think that's important. So I think you understand that. I mean, people that love church, they love to be around God's people. You understand that. You know how encouraged you are, and typically, if you're encouraged by other people, then you're also another that would encourage others as they are there. I always say this: I've never met anybody that said, you know what, I came to church, I'm very disappointed that I came. I've heard people say, I almost didn't come for whatever reason. I almost talked myself out of coming, but I came, and I'm glad I came. Not just because they may have heard the preacher say something that encouraged them, but oftentimes it's just being there, hearing the hymn sung or the special songs, the choir, certainly the message, but being there with God's people, and that is encouraging. So I think you understand that. So let's take that admonition, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is. Some's going to do it, but don't be that kind. But exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. The Lord is coming, and we need to be around God's people, and we need to be preparing ourselves for the coming of the Lord. I think the best way to do that is to be at church and be together, be a unit, and encourage each other. All right, we're going to see you tomorrow on Friday, be our last day of in this series we're in about encouragement. Hope you have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.